Okay, so we're going to go over fading up from black and fading down to black. So far, everybody's videos, they've been awesome. I've been enjoying watching them, but they all need to have, I think, not all of them, most of them need to have a fade up from black and a fade down to black at the end. We didn't go over that in class, so there won't be any marks taken away if you didn't do that for the first video. But from now on, every video you submit has to have a fade up and a fade down. A fade, when I'm saying a fade up, I mean starting in black and the picture fades in. That is also called a dissolve, because a dissolve, you're dissolving from black into your shot. Any of these effects are called transition effects, meaning they are getting you from one shot to the next. A cut technically is a transition effect, but it's just a cut. You're going from this shot to this shot, this shot to this shot. And here is that transition, represented by these two rectangles and this line in between. Other ways to get from this shot to this shot would be a dissolve, where this shot would fade away at the same time as this shot fading in. Then there are wipes, where the shot wipes away, whether it's a shape or just a hard line cutting across the screen. You've seen those in Star Wars movies and other things where they have shape wipes to get you. Usually they're scene changes. You're getting from one scene to the next. You would never use an effect like that inside of a scene. All those transition effects are there for a reason. You never use one just because it looks cool. If you're dropping an effect on just because it looks cool, rethink your rationale there. There should be another reason. It should look cool and it should do something within your scene or within your piece overall. Um, so those are called transition effects because they're transitioning from one shot to another. Then there are also clip effects. For example, if you change this shot to black and white, that would be a clip effect. It would be an effect you drop right onto the clip. We'll go over those in another tutorial. But right now we're just going to do the fade up to black, which is basically a dissolve from black into your shot. Excuse me. And like always, there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. What you want to do is position your cursor where at the beginning of your timeline. So remember, here's the time code. We're at 00. So you're at the beginning, and we'll be in the editing tab here. I should have been that. I was in my. This is my own settings that I like to work in. But right now, we'll just go to editing, and then we'll right-click, reset. So this should be what yours looks like. So we're at the beginning, and we want to put an effect here. The way to do that is down here on this panel. If you click on the arrows, you'll see that there are some other tabs that you can't quite see. So you can either click on the arrows, or we can make this a little bigger, because we want this one, effects. This panel lists all the effects that you have on the system, whatever system you're working on. Any effects that come with Adobe, with Premiere, and then any, if you've bought any presets or any plugins, they'll all be in here. They're organized under these folders. Presets, if you save off any presets that you use often, will be in this folder. Lumetri is the color, it's for color grading. We'll go into that a little bit in class, but you can do a whole semester or a whole year or more on color grading. It's very in-depth. Excuse me. Then we have audio effects, audio transitions, video effects, video transitions. Remember what I said, there's transition effects and clip effects. So remember, we're transitioning. We're going to go from black to the shot. See, this is right now, it's just a shot. So if we play, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this a little bigger. I'm going to lasso all of these and just drag them down a second. So I'll go to 1, 0, 0, enter, and then I just get, so basically, and I got that snapping function on. See how it just snaps? So now we have nothing, a big void at the beginning, which is just black. And if we hit play, see, the cat just pops on. It's very abrupt. Boom. It's not, it doesn't come in smoothly. It's just, there's nothing, and then there it is. So we're going to put a dissolve. So we're going to dissolve from this black, this nothing, into the shot. So I just moved everything down so we would have this black at the beginning to show you how this works. So I go to this. You don't have to be right on the, just kind of be near it for the way we're going to do it this way. So we go into the effects tab, the effects panel, which has all these effects and folders. We'll twirl this one down, and you can see there's going to be more folders inside of folders and stuff like that. So we go into video transitions because we're going to transition the video, the picture. And it's a dissolve we're going to use. But you can see these are all different types of effects. You can do that page, you know, the page peel one that used to be really popular. Most of these are cheesy. You won't ever want to use them because they stink. But sometimes they're, you know, if you're doing a comedy or something, you might use some of these. But I would stay away. The only thing I would ever use would be a fade, dissolve, and a cut. Those are all you really need in editing. So there are different types of dissolves even. I'm not going to go into all the ones. They basically all do the same thing. We're not going to use this dip to black, though it seems like we would want to, but that's kind of a little bit different. These additive dissolves, it's additive is the way it's mixing the luminance values of the two shots. So you can play around and you'll see some differences there. We're just going to use this cross dissolve, and you can see it's going to, anyone you select will highlight it. This, I'll tell you what this blue box means in a second. But you just grab the icon, grab it and drag it over and drop it. And you can see when you get near a transition, see, it kind of highlights and the cursor changes. And we just go right to this first one and drop it. And you can see what happened. It already got fainter because where our cursor is, it's in the middle of this effect. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to hit undo, and I want you to watch what happens down here. Don't watch the cat. Watch the timeline. See, it gets brown. We let go, and now it's got this brown tan icon, and it says cross dissolve. It'll tell you exactly what the effect that you just dropped on. And you can highlight that. If I click on it now, it's white because it's selected. And you can change how long this dissolve is. It defaults to a second. You can change that default if you know you're always going to use 2-second dissolves or 15 frames or half a second dissolves. You can change that, but the default is 1 second, and usually that works pretty good. So let's play it just right away without changing anything. See? It faded up from black, nice and smooth. And it's yellow, which means it's probably going to play real time, but you probably should render it. We covered rendering before. Before you export, you want to render everything, but for right now, it plays fine because it's just a dissolve. So that's the basic way to put that effect on there. I'm gonna, if you can delete an effect by highlighting the effect, the icon itself. So that's not highlighted. Now it is, and you hit delete. Now that icon goes away, and now it's just back to a cut. Because I want to show you another way to do it. Premiere, Adobe defaults to making that cross dissolve the default effect for your whole program, and you can change that, but it's a pretty good idea to use it because the dissolve will be the most common effect you use, transition effect anyway. So if you hover your cursor near that transition and you right click, see how it becomes red? You right click and you get a couple other things here, but right now you get apply default transitions. You click that, and there it is. There's that same exact effect, same exact length, cross dissolve. So that's a lot easier than going to this bin, dragging and dropping. I'll do that again. So I'll hit delete. Right click, apply default transition, and there you go. I'm going to make this a little bigger by dragging this out. I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to do the same thing. Now, this time I'm going to make it bigger by hitting the plus key. And this is the last shot in our video here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Right click, apply default transitions. And there it is. And now we fade. So at the end of your projects, you want to go to your first clip, add a dissolve, and go to your last clip and add a dissolve. So your videos will fade up from black, and at the very end they'll fade away to black. And the cool thing here is also, I'm going to make this a little smaller. You can do the same thing. Some of your songs cut out. They just stopped. They didn't fade away. And you can do the same thing to audio. You can add a dissolve to audio to have your song fade in and fade out. So same thing. We'll go to the beginning, and this time highlight this, although you don't need to highlight it, but look at this track here, audio 1, which has the song. Go to audio transitions, and there's not as many. Crossfade, and for audio they call it constant power. Oh, that blue box, that means that it's that default transition I was telling you about. When you right click default transition, that's how you can tell what the default transition is. It's the one with the blue box. You can go into your preferences and change that, but I wouldn't recommend changing that because you're going to use the dissolve all the time. And the same thing with the audio. It just calls it constant power, but it's a dissolve. Drag it and drop it. I'm going to make this bigger. Now, audio dissolves are the duration. We can see this icon is smaller than this icon. Even if we make the track bigger, I mean the timeline stretch out, that icon is always going to be smaller. That means that it's quicker. It's happening in a quicker amount of time. But I'll show you about that in a second. But you can, so a lot of you, most of your songs will fade in, but some of you, probably because of the time constraints, cut your song off at the end. It didn't fade, so I'm just going to trim this just to show you how that works with audio. See how how that just cut off at the end? We don't want that. Let's say we want it to fade out. So we right click, or we drag over, we'll right click, same thing. On the audio track, right click, apply default transitions. And we get that little icon. Now listen. You hear how that faded out? I'll delete that and play it without, and then we'll do it again. See how it just stopped, or hear how it just, then we put that on. But that still, it was really fast. It wasn't like a nice slow fade of the music. Like if that's how you're gonna want to end you still want a slower fade. So we want to make that dissolve last longer. So right now, there's of course a bunch of different ways. If you highlight the icon, whatever the effect is, right now it's just an audio dissolve, we highlight it, and then we go into this tab at the top called Effect Controls. Excuse me. And here it gives you the effect. It tells you what the effect is, gives you a little visual representation. We can see these two. It's an audio effect. It's got the audio waveform squiggles, and it's got these two yellow boxes, meaning it's fading one. This yellow, not boxes, yellow cross here. This yellow one is fading away, and this yellow one's fading in. Although we're only fading away because we're not fading in another track. We're just fading out this song. And here's the duration. It's only 4 frames. That's why it still seems kind of abrupt. We want it to be a little longer. Let's say we want it to be a 2-second fade. So anytime you see these blue numbers, you can change them. You can highlight them and type in 200, enter, and defaults to 129 because of time code. But that is, now it's 2 seconds. And look what happened down here. I'm going to do that again. This time watch the icon on the bottom here. When I type in 2 seconds, hit enter, boom, it got bigger. So this icon gives you a visual representation of the length of the effect. Big long rectangle will be a big long effect. Tiny little short rectangle will be a quick effect. Now listen. See how that was nice and smooth? But of course that our video is still going on. So let's say that is where we wanted to end. So we're going to delete these last couple of clips and end on this one here with the cat coming up to us and dropping the ball. But we still need the, whoops, went to the beginning because that was at the very end. So we want to have it dissolve and matches. So if we right click, apply default transitions. So we can, anytime whatever you click on, there we go. So it's telling me this is the audio dissolve, it's 2 seconds. And then I click on this one, it tells me it's the video cross dissolve, and it's only 129 frames is 1 second. So let's make this match. We'll make this 2 seconds. And now look, see, the two rectangles are the same size, so that means they're the same length of time. And you get a nice smooth ending. So that's what you need to do for all your videos from now on. Always have a nice smooth fade to black at the end. The end is even more important than the beginning. You don't want it just, because if it just cuts out like that, it looks like a mistake. Like I said, there might be reasons why you cut to black instead of fade to black, but unless there is a specific reason, don't do that. Always fade. And while we're at it, the technique of adding that fade to black is also how you add effects, transition effects between shots that we were talking about. So let's say we want to dissolve from this kitty cat to this shot. Same thing. Right click on right on that line between the two shots. Doesn't matter where your cursor is. It matters where your playback cursor is. It matters where your mouse cursor is. Right click, apply default transition. Bam. And there it is. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm going to mute the audio so it's not, but watch very carefully as this transitions. So we'll put a 1 second dissolve between those shots automatically. But did you see right there? Right there, And you can see inside the dissolve there's the shot it's changing. Because what's happening is it's pulling frames. It's starting to pull frames from the shot coming inbound, and then it's showing you more frames of the shot leaving. And that shot leaving, the close-up of the cat, is not enough of the shot. The shot changes on the source side. Meaning if we match frame, match frame means you go to a frame on your timeline and you want to find that exact same frame on your source where you edited this shot from. If you hit the letter F, it's going to pop it up on your playback side. See, this is the exact frame as this. And if we play this on the source side, see, that's shot changes on the source side. And you'll find that very often. It's a common thing to be aware of. If you're using footage that it's already been edited by somebody else, you're using it as a source to make a new edit. You got to be aware of that, and that also is why some of you had flash frames in your videos, and I called attention to that because that's always a mistake. We'll look at that in a second. But there can be flash frames inside of a dissolve, which is what we have here, and it just looks weird. It doesn't. A dissolve should be nice and smooth, and this is not because there's a shot change inside the dissolve. And there it is. And it's actually going to this very same shot, so it looks even more weird. So, what do? Do we give up on the dissolve? Not necessarily. The problem is, in this case, is the dissolve is too long. So another way, remember, if you click on the actual icon that you want to manipulate, go to Effect Controls, it's 1 second. Another way to get at the length of the dissolve is just to double click, and this window will come up and it'll tell you set transition duration, so you can change the duration. So let's make it 15 frames. We'll make it half the speed and see how that works. And you can see the little icon got smaller because we made it half speed. Now let's play it. Nope, it didn't play because it wants to render it. So I'm going to have to render the effect. Sometimes that happens, even though it's just a little dissolve. I don't know. Still didn't, we're still catching, see right there, you can see it, see? Inside of the dissolve, we're seeing this basketball hoop twice. And everything else in the shot twice. So just making it shorter didn't help. What else can we do? Well, that's what this is. Alignment. Next to alignment is a drop down. You have 4 choices: center at cut, start at cut, end at cut, and a custom. So what does that mean? So look at the icon here. It sits right on top of the cut. So it shows you where the cut was and where this icon, and that we have center at cut. So that means it's taking exactly the same amount of frames from the shot coming in and the shot going out. So it's a 15 frame dissolve. So half of those frames are coming from the shot coming in, and the other half are from the shot going out. But we can change that. So watch this icon when I go to start at cut. Boom. So the dissolve doesn't even start to happen until where the original cut was, and then it starts to fade away. And that, so I'll go back to center so you can see the dissolve is actually happening a few half, 7 and a half frames basically before the cut. and then it stretches out for another 7.5 frames after the cut, because it's centered right on top of the cut, the effect. We go to started cut, the dissolve doesn't happen to where the original cut was, and then it's a full 15 frames. So it's taking all 15 extra frames of the shot leaving, but no extra frames of the shot coming in. And you can see that doesn't help us. It's actually even worse. We're seeing that jump cut, and it's just not working at all. What if we do end at cut? So now you can see the icon is all the way up to the left of the cut point, meaning the dissolve starts 15 frames before the cut would have come, and it's pulling all the extra frames from the incoming shot. Let's play that. And that still looks weird. Let me render that. It's still not playing smooth. So that problem is that we're dissolving. It's working pretty well, except when the dissolve is the last frame of the dissolve is actually still this shot again, because we're basically dissolving to the very next shot that was in the original sequence anyway. So it's probably not a good idea to put a dissolve on this cut. I'm going to delete it, but if we absolutely have to, it looked like that ending on the cut dissolve was the best. But it wasn't able to pull enough frames from this shot to complete the dissolve. So what we have to do is give it a few more frames, meaning I'm going to go in to about here. I don't know if you remember trimming in the 3-point edit lesson. I'm going to click and see how it becomes red, and I can drag, and then I'm going to click and drag the whole clip back, right click, and then double click this because we know it has to be 15. And then another way you can go, instead of going up here and changing this to end at cut, you can actually physically drag the icon right in your timeline. See, I've just grabbed that rectangle, and now I'm moving and I'm sliding it, and I'm getting numbers are telling me how much I've slid it, and I'm sliding it 7 frames. So I'm pulling it, so now it's in the same position as that ending on the cut as it was. Let's render this and see what happens. Now the dissolve works, but I'm gonna not use a dissolve here because I'm forced to use that ending on the cut dissolve. I'm losing the cat jumping, which is what we like. So even though the dissolve works technically, we don't have any flash frames in there. I want the jump because the next cut we're going to is the cat jumping. So after all that work, I've decided, and that happens quite a bit. You think I'm going to put an effect on here, and you take a long time to get the effect to work, and then in the end, you say, you know what, it worked better without the effect. Now this brings up, though, another issue that a couple of you ran into in your videos was called a black hole. And I can see it. I knew it was coming. I can see it right here. But we'll play it, and you'll see what it is. Oh, see that? There's nothing. These shots aren't right next to each other on the timeline, so we're seeing some black, and that's always a mistake most of the time. I mean, if you're doing it on purpose, have a reason to do it, and make it fairly obvious that you are doing it on purpose. But right here, that's just a mistake. I'll play it again. But it's easy enough to fix. I'm just going to hit the plus side. Now, I don't know if you remember, just a minute ago, we slid this clip up. And that's why, because I only grabbed that clip, none of the other clips, when we slid it up, it opened up a hole right here. So I'm going to slide it back, but as you probably are guessing, now I just moved, I didn't make it with the plus. Now that black hole is up here, so I'm going to go back. I'm basically undoing the work I did a few minutes ago of the dissolve. But the black hole is gone. See? Let's turn the song back on. Ball. No, but it sounds to me like that's just the man with the bone. Sure having himself a ball. Oh, there's another black hole. And you can see it right in the timeline. And it's important to watch your stuff in real time because, yeah, I can see it when it's zoomed in like this, but if I'm stretched out like this, I can't tell that there's a black hole now. It doesn't look like it when we zoom in. So it's important to watch very closely. And it's easy enough to fix. Make it big. I'm just going to drag. This time, trim it this way. Just fill in that section, those couple of frames, like that. Simple. It'll look like something weird, didn't it? Eventually your eyes get pretty good and you can, yeah, look at that. See? Still there. That's weird. So I'm hitting the F key. That's odd. I don't know why that. Could be that it's not rendered. Whoa. That is just funky. Look at that. That's a flash frame. I don't know what that was all about. It's showing me, that's weird. It's showing me just a quick frame in the middle of this clip from here. Now, sometimes you run into this kind of thing. And I don't know exactly why that is. If I match frame, meaning I'm going to go back, I set an in and out on this clip, I hit the letter F and it shows me, because if I go back here and I advance one frame at a time, so this is like a bug or something. Let's see if I can just re-edit the entire clip on top of that. No, look at that, it's still, what if I re-edit it on, sometimes Premiere is funky. You gotta kinda, so I just re-edited that clip on a different track up above it. It's doing the same thing. Now I'm gonna I'm gonna delete the actual render files and see if that does anything. See, that fixed it. But now everything's unrendered. That was weird. That had something to do with the way Premiere was storing the render files in its cache. So I deleted all the render files, and you can see now the whole thing is yellow. I should have just deleted the end out. I got a little carried away. So we'll re-render this whole thing. So that's why it's important to watch your videos, especially before you send them out to a client. And then if you see a mistake that you have to fix, you fix it, and you figure out exactly how to fix it. You don't just say, oh, maybe he won't notice or something like that. Especially if you're being paid. So get this mark here. But I'm going to show you what a flash frame is. So let's say we're going to put a cut here. Now remember, all this business with the cats was taken from a video that somebody else made, so it's full of other edits. I'm going to make this bigger so I can see. I'm going to go back into that. And then if I hit the tilde key, which is a little squiggle above the tab. So let's say I want this shot here, right? Oh, right there, that was a flash frame. Play it back. Watch real quick. After the immediate shot after this, you'll see an awkward frame that doesn't belong. Right there, you see it? Alright, there. It's a few frames. So we go from this cat to this one. They're stretched down, but that wasn't the shot I wanted. This is the one I wanted. But my end point was a couple of frames off. And because it came from something that was edited by someone else, not raw footage, I brought over a couple of frames of the shot previous to what the other editor had done, and that's called a flash frame, and it's a mistake. Easy enough to fix once you see it. Just go to that first frame that we want. You can see, that ball wasn't there a minute ago, and the cats are in different positions. That's the frame we want. And just trim down to that frame. But now we've left a black hole. So drag it up till it snaps. But then, of course, we got a black hole on this side, and just trim it out. We'll render it. So there we go. That's how you fix the flash frame. So I think we'll stop here for this tutorial, but if you have any questions about adding dissolves, fades, either at the beginning, so we fade up from black and our audio fades in. Oh, one other thing I forgot to tell you, I think, oh no, maybe I did tell you, but I told you could drag these icons, but you can also drag them out. Well, sometimes it's tricky. But see how there you go, see how it changes? It's got that red trim icon, but it has a little extra rectangle on it. That's going to allow me to make this whole fade. See, I grabbed that icon, and I can stretch this out, and the numbers are telling me now the new duration, 109. See, now I got this big long fade in, which the song already has a fade in, so it's hard to tell. But say I wanted to do that at the end. Right now I have a 2-second, but let's say I wanted to just longer, but I just wanted to do it, I just want to grab it and drag it. So that's important. The fades from black, fade down at the end, fade your music down, or your audio, whatever your audio is. Your next video's gotta have that. I will take points off because your music videos, we hadn't talked about it, but next time they have to have the fades. And I'd love to see some effects in between. Let's see what we can do here. We're going, a lot of times, we're going to talk specifically about why you'd use a dissolve and why they are invented and such, but one of the reasons is if there's an obvious change in your footage, sometimes a dissolve can make that change a little smoother, or can call attention to it if you want, or can even negate some of the attention going from two different shots. So obviously we're going from widescreen, horizontal, and now we're at vertical. So let's say we want to add a dissolve there to make it so not so abrupt. So just like we talked about, just go right click, apply default transitions. Now you can see this automatically, if we go to effect controls, automatically put us starting at the cut, where normally it defaults to center. That's because, let's delete this. If we go to the first frame of this shot by match framing, so I go to the frame on my timeline, the letter F, it pops up here on the source side, and look, I took the endpoint. It's the very first frame. There's no other frames to use for a dissolve. That's the first frame. So you can't, in this situation, you can only do a start because there's no frames for it to use to do a center or end. So let's see if that works. I think it's a little long, but at least there's no flash frame. There's no cut inside of the dissolve we have to worry about. But I am going to make it quicker. So instead of 1 second, I'm going to go to half a second. And see, it got smaller, but it's still starting on the cut. I like that better. So that's a case where I use a dissolve for a reason, because we're going from horizontal to vertical. Now let's do it again when we leave the vertical and go back to the horizontal. So same thing, right click, apply default transitions, and look, now it did the center because there's room on both sides for the dissolve, but let's make sure there's no problems. Oh, there it is again. You saw that? Bam. Because we're taking clips from an already edited piece. So first I'm going to make this short again, 15. And then I'm just going to drag it so once again, I'm going to do start. Because I'm pretty sure I have enough of the vertical to cover that dissolve. Whoops. Okay, there we go. So, covered a lot of stuff in there. We had that glitch with the flash frame that we had to fix by deleting the render files. We did some dissolves, some fades, some audio fades. So you will need to be doing that in your next video, your next assignment, which we'll be talking about soon. If you have any questions after you watch this, you can bring it up in class or outside of class, email, give me a call, or something like that. So we'll see you soon. I'll be posting this on Wednesday, and so class will be tomorrow. Thanks.